And welcome to everyone. This is a maiden voyage for us. So we're going to do our best here and see what happens. Okay. Let us do. Okay. Do roll call. Then we'll do pledge. I'll follow the script.
So we have Director Jones.
Here.
Director D'Ambra.
Here.
And we have Director Beard by Zoom.
Here.
Do we have Director Redfern?
Not here.
Do we have Director Muller? Okay.
We have a quorum.
Yes, we have a quorum.
Yes. Okay.
All right. So with that, I shall ask Director D'Ambra to lead us in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Director Redfern is here.
And Director Muller is online.
Okay, and there. So, wow. We have it. We have perfect attendance. Well, we're still working out the bugs here, but it's nice because I can see a public person, our attorney. So let's go ahead and we've had the Pledge of Allegiance. So right now, this is for public comment. So if there's anybody in the public that would like to comment on something that is not agendized, this would be the opportunity. I am assuming that Gary, you would like to probably comment on something that's on the agenda. So with that, I don't think there's anybody that would like to give a public comment. So now we're going to move ahead to our consent agenda. And this would be approval of the regular meeting minutes from March 18th, 2020. The treasurer's dashboard March report, approval of disbursements for March 13th to April 9th, and the profit and loss budget performance, along with the treasurer's report. So those who have had an opportunity to review that at home in the packet, is there anyone that would like to make any changes or have any comments? I don't think so. Are you Director Beard? Did you have any comments or?
No, I don't.
Okay, then what I would like now is Director Muller, sorry. How about you? Any comments on the consent agenda?
No comments. I was just going to make a motion that we accept all as stated.
Okay, so we have a motion to pass the consent agenda from Director Muller. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Director Beard. And so,
Okay.
Wendy?
So we have a motion by Director Muller, a second by Director Beard to approve the consent agenda as presented. We'll do a roll call vote with the board members in the at the district office right now. Director Redfern, Director D'Ambra,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Beard,
Aye.
Director Muller.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, very good. Now we are going to move to the action items, and I will turn it over to our general manager to discuss 6A, the Santa Cota Motor Lodge.
Okay, thank you. So Mrs. Lynn, the owner of the Santa Cota Motor Lodge, located on 3099 East Highway 246, submitted an application together with plans and specs for a sewer facility to connect her property to the district's main line on 246 back in October 2018. We also, the next month in November of that year, entered into a sewer line extension agreement in conjunction with our engineer's approval of the owner's plans and specifications for the sewer facility. The construction is completed at the Santa Cota. It was completed around January 2020, and they are connected to the district sewer system, so they are flowing into our main line. the owner has paid $95,458 in both capacity charges and reimbursement fees to us, in addition to the $11,740 deposit or bond for the project. On March 4th, we received a request from a representative of the owner asking for the deposit to be returned. At that point, I met with staff and our engineer to discuss the project, the history of the project. It is unusually complicated for a relatively simple sewer line connection to our main line. That property was previously served by septic tanks. Now, of course, they are on the sewer system. The agreement the district has with the owner, the November 2018 agreement, is the governing document for the project. It does specify that the owner shall construct and install the sewer facilities per the approved plans, and that did not occur. Changes to the plans did happen during that time, and staff had either acknowledged those changes or in some cases approved some changes. There are the major changes to the plans are that it's an 8-inch line, 8-inch main line. From the drop manhole to the end of the line, it was supposed to be a 10-inch line. The main line was not extended all the way to the northern property line. It ended with the manhole on the Horizon Drive side, if you will. The depth of the sewer line is shallower than the approved plans, and the alignment is not per the approved plans. As I said, it's usually complicated for really what is all only a property connecting into our sewer line, which happens all the time. At this point, I think we just need to resolve this agreement and move forward. It is the agreement specifies that the improvements will be conveyed to the CSD upon their completion for our ownership and use and maintenance of those. At this point, we can't use most of those improvements. So there is a small section of the improvements from one of the manholes, manhole number 3, to the main line throughout the right-of-way that we can use, the owner is using, and we can use it in the future for other projects. And that is what's being recommended that we have asked to be conveyed to the CSD, because the rest of the project will treat simply as a private lateral that the motor lodge is using now. At one time, there may have been a belief that the entire line could be used for a future sewer project on Horizon Drive, and that cannot be done now. It's too small, it's too shallow, and it's the wrong alignment. So,
If I may,
Sure.
was that part of the agreement, the original, why was all these, they signed off to meet these criteria?
Right.
And all of a sudden, a bunch of wrenches get thrown into machinery, why was that?
yeah, I don't know that.
Why did we know about that earlier?
This concerns me because I want us to learn from this. And
As I mentioned, there was staff, some changes were brought forward to the staff, to the management. And some of those changes were acknowledged or they were acknowledged.
Question then, the changes were for the benefit in cost for San Jacoto. I would guess that to be the case, not to the benefit of us.
Yeah, but they were not
Is
to
that
the
a fair
benefit of us.
statement?
They were not to the benefit of us.
Okay, so it was to their benefit. It wasn't our benefit, it was theirs to save them money. But they agreed on something and then changed it for costs.
But we acknowledged that change. We said, okay. We said, okay. Like, one of the specifics that came to me right off the bat was that the deposit, which is what we're talking about, the deposit of $11,740, the agreement we have specifies that is a bond or a deposit for the project. After I started digging into that, I received an email from the owner's engineer that said, actually, the deposit is only for the work in the right-of-way. It does not say that in the agreement. The CSD acknowledged and approved that the deposit is actually only for the improvements in the right-of-way. So there is a material change in the document
which means they get their deposit back.
Yeah, they built the improvements in the right of way.
And they specified it to that area only. Is that correct?
Not in the agreement.
But
In some emails that went back and forth.
Yes.
Between our engineer, their engineer, and the district manager, yes.
So what's the conclusion here? Just give them the money back and we go about our ways and learn something from
Yes.
like this?
That's my recommendation.
Okay.
It's, I think with any project, whether it's a relatively small one like this or a multi-million-dollar project, it's critical to have one person that is managing the project, that knows the legal issues, the agreement, that knows what's going on with the engineers, that knows the money that's being paid to see what are the finances, and what does the board know of it? What's the board's relationship into the project? One person has to manage all those things. We had an engineer managing the engineering aspects. We had legal counsel managing the agreement of the legal aspects. We had finance taking care of payments received by us.
We had a board that didn't know anything until tonight.
And that's,
Well, I knew a little bit because we asked about it and it was like, oh no, that lady owner's crazy and we had to get rid of certain parts of it, but it wasn't an adequate explanation. It was just like a blow off. But I do remember, and Director Mueller, you correct me please, because we all have our own memories of previous board members. You know, everybody hears different things. But my understanding was one thing that was good about this project was that we would be able to use that, for Horizon. And until right now, I didn't realize that that wasn't happening.
and if I may, we will still use a small portion of it. From a manhole on the San Jacinto property, about, I think it's 30 feet till you get to the right of way. And then we will have that portion of the project plus an easement, which is what the documents are today. Those small, which is not the entire project, it's a small portion of the project, will be conveyed to the CSD to use at a later date as we see fit. It's manhole and a line that connects to the main line in 246. So it's not the whole thing. It's some of it.
But we got that in written
Yes,
verification
that would be conveyed to us.
on the return of their deposit.
Yes, that will be conveyed to us, plus the easement to allow us access. In the future, when we build Horizon Line, if we do, then we will build a line, and we'll have to receive an easement to do that on San Jacinto property. We'll build a line, it will connect to that manhole, and then it will flow out of their property into the right of way, into the main line.
Director Mueller, was it your understanding that that pipe up the driveway, the Santa Cota, was going to be something that we would be able to use for the Horizon thing?
No, I think what I understood was that it was just in the piece in the right of way area. And I know there had been discussion about perhaps using something in their driveway, but I thought that the part we were actually being deeded to was that mainline extension in the right of way, and that was the only piece that we'd be owning.
Well, that's interesting. I'm going to go back and review. I think I have a video of one of the meetings we talked about, and that's just it made sense to me. But I think that one thing I am learning is how important it is to have confidence in somebody managing the project, because I feel like I failed as a board member on this one. I had questions. There were things I wasn't comfortable with, but in the end, maybe I should hold things up until I fully understand and have confidence that it's being managed properly. But we spent a lot of money.
It is detrimental to San Jacinto to have their place ripped up twice for the same job, basically.
Well, if we will have to receive an easement and
And then we're gonna go right up their driveway, which is gonna affect their business.
there's
Who's gonna wanna stay where you got a bunch of excavators and heavy equipment making noise from 7 in the morning to 5 in the evening?
They're gonna give you plugs and gloves.
There you go.
Well, it's just, all I can say, we can look back. I'm glad that John did a post-mortem on it, and it sounds like we don't have much choice, that we need to honor our agreement, but it's, I'm disappointed, and I just think that when we spend a lot of money planning things and then we don't stick to the plan or don't properly make the changes.
Or we're not informed about the potential consequences of doing this as opposed to doing that. And that's why we have this issue here now. It's a lack of communication.
Well, and a lack of communication, and perhaps
Yeah.
worse than that, but nobody is taking, it's like there's nobody to take responsibility for it is the problem. And so as a board, we need to take responsibility.
Well, I think we have to blame John. I mean, John's here, he's a gentleman.
So Rick, was it your understanding that I mean, were you involved in any of drafting up any of this legal agreement? Because I know there was a discussion about hooking on to the tail end of their pipe, but I didn't think we were going to have ownership of that pipe and they were going to just deed it over to us. And I wasn't sure if there was some legal language in there that we added to give us that right away. Oh, shoot.
Okay, so
I think he was asking Rick, correct?
Rick Battles. Yeah.
Oh, he's on mute maybe.
Oh,
He doesn't have, he's on mute.
Rick, you're on mute, I think.
This is just
He should
another
be
ghost
fine
of past that we just need to clear the slate. As painful as it is, we learned hopefully something. We won't make this mistake again, and let's just go forward. Is that what?
yes, that's my recommendation. I mean, I'm able to come in with hindsight. My hindsight's 20/20. I would have done it this way. I would have done it this way. I would not have done that.
Yeah.
But of course, I wasn't here for the project. It seemed relatively simple. The agreement is good. We just didn't follow it.
So is there any training that staff needs to do, the staff that was on site, or is there anything that staff could learn to make sure this doesn't happen again? Because I'm learning as a board member.
Again, my recommendation is especially with small agencies, there's one person that should be the hub.
The liaison.
Should know a little of everything, should be involved with everything. Doesn't have to do everything, but has to coordinate legal and the inspection and what's the owner doing. And you have to just stay on top of things.
Typically, that would be the GM.
Usually it is.
Yeah, well, that's why we're in the situation in a search right now.
So, I think I asked the representative or the representative's owner, a representative of the owner to be here tonight. He might be online. Otherwise, my recommendation is simply to, at this point, to move forward. I've spent an unusual amount of time on this the last month, and I like to put a rubber band on this file. And one day, we now have the ability to connect to that manhole on San Dakota property for a future line that will go in. That will have to go along the entire side of the property.
Let me ask you, is there sounds like the ball's in their court now, financing wise, if we're gonna tie into that, was there anything legally that stated they would allocate those resources at a rate, because we're gonna end up paying them, is that not correct?
Well, no, the agreement requires them to convey those facilities to us at no cost.
At no cost?
At no cost to us, as well as an easement, at no cost.
And that's what I was gonna ask. Do we have the easement to hook up to it already through that property?
That is in the board packet, the easement
Okay.
and the conveyance.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, I think we can move forward with this and go ahead and make a motion to approve it.
And a return of the
Deposit back, we get our easement
and
and
the facilities that we need.
that's the quickest, cheapest, fairest way
You
out.
can move on, you can work on other projects.
Okay, sounds
So does that change our engineering now for the Horizon?
The Horizon Drive line, I am told, will not have to go because the right-of-way easement, the right-of-way, the work in the right-of-way, the pipe in the right-of-way is actually a little deeper than proposed. So I'm told that makes our future Horizon line have to go a little deeper. However, that will give it the ability to connect more homes in the future. Deeper line. Connect, but
So it has a good outcome.
so it's not that active, but it will have to go a little deeper.
What's a little deeper? 30 feet?
No.
6 inches, 8
6
inches?
inches, it's
Okay.
at 6 inches, 8 inches, but with sewer lines, that's real, a lot of fun.
Yeah, I just have a recollection, and you may not have the same recollection, Frank, that we were talking about that we would do something that had fair share in the name of it. That there, as people on Horizon came on, that it would refund some to Santa Cota because we were going to be using their line. That's not happening, but I remember that discussion.
Yeah, that was on the agenda. Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I've got a complicated connection because my video on my computer won't connect. So I'm connecting by video through my iPhone, and I'm connecting by audio through my through the computer, or the other way around. In any case, so the situation, I was involved in the documentation, and I prepared a mainline extension agreement, and it clearly provides that they would build a main line all the way up the driveway to the back of the property and then deed it over to the district. And for reasons that I can't explain, an agreement was reached along the way that they wouldn't actually build that main line as set forth in the approved plans. And instead they built what is essentially a private lateral with a little bit of a mainline extension in the right of way so they can just serve their property. So since that was agreed to at the staff level partway through the project, the district is not in a good position to insist that they comply with the agreement at this point and construct the main line and at their expense and deed it over to the district, number one. And number two, I don't really know what basis the district had for having them design a mainline extension across their whole property in the first instance. You know, it would have provided an opportunity for some cost sharing if the district would have paid for part of it, and they would have saved the cost of constructing their own private lateral or part of the cost. But that wasn't agreed to. That wasn't part of the agreement. And so they came up with plans that provided for a 10-inch main line across the whole length of their property, and they were going to give it to the district, but then they just didn't follow those plans and they built something else. So it's sort of a lost opportunity that we couldn't have had them do that, but it also wasn't necessarily a fair arrangement with the property owner to require them to build more than they needed and give an easement that they didn't have to give under those circumstances.
My recollection of that, Rick, was that the county said that they wouldn't give them the permits that they needed to do the remodel. I'm not sure what they're calling the building that they did there, but the upgrade to their facility unless they put a 10-inch pipe in there. That's my memory and my understanding, that it could be flawed. So then I think it was this fall or winter at a meeting, it's like, what? Well, I thought this. Oh no, that person, we decided to change it. She wouldn't work with us. But yeah, didn't know anything about it. And now I see it just isn't playing out the way I thought it was going to. And I agree that we need to move on, but I also think we need to figure out where it broke down and make sure that that doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, and where it broke down is a puzzle to me. I don't know how the project changed or why the project changed midstream. It shouldn't have happened, and if it was going to happen, it should have come back to the board for an amendment to the agreement.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got nothing to add? Nobody really knows what happened.
They came in and talked to Jen.
Okay, well,
So the recommendation is to adopt resolution 2001, which will accept the easement deed and the grant of rights to the sewer facilities at San Dakota Motor Lodge, facilities that we need and want. And in return, the cash deposit back to the owner.
Yeah, and on the cash deposit, you need to determine whether you're going to return all of it or a portion of it. Generally, the district keeps 25% of it for a year to cover any warranty repairs that might come up. But you could, you have the option of not returning any of it and hold the whole deposit for a year, or you could also elect to return the whole deposit.
well, I think Director Beard was ready to make a motion. Oh, excuse me. Yes. Are there any public comments at this point? Is Gary still on the line?
Gary is.
Director Beard is talking now.
Have we inspected what they've done? Do we know what that manhole looks like? Do we have a camera?
We did. We put a camera down. The main line and the manhole.
Okay.
Hold on a second, Director Beard. Did you hear Director Redfern's comments?
No, I couldn't hear it.
Okay, well, hang on a second because Gary, I've got Gary up and I wondered if Gary had any public comment he wanted to make on this issue.
The only thing I'm concerned about is it sounds like, if I understand correctly, now you have to build a new main line or a bigger extension to the main line that they already have to come to Horizon, which will increase our costs. Is that correct?
I would ask John that.
Yes.
Our general manager just said, yes, that is true. So it's going to affect the cost of, for the folks on Horizon.
That's included in our current cost.
Oh, so it already is.
We saw
in
this. Yeah, your engineer saw this. Months.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, that's good. Yeah, we'll take that. Okay, now Director Beard.
I was going to make a motion to approve it, but after I heard something about there was a 20%, 25% or holding back a certain amount for repairs for a year. Can you repeat that?
Yeah,
the agreement we have, the mainline extension agreement, allows the board to hold back 25% of the deposit for another year. That would be approximately a little over $3,000.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to adopt the resolution with holding back the 25%.
Okay, so we have a motion from Director Beard that the easement deed and grant of rights and sewer facilities executed by the property owner relating to the sewer main line extension serving Sanakota Motor Lodge is hereby accepted, and that we would refund 20 or 75% of the deposit.
I have a point for this. For $3,000, my personal opinion is we're going to be needing them on our side to run the line down here.
And to accept and to get these.
Yes, I would not want to alienate them, take the shot for $3,000 and have them come back to me and us and you know, they could hold us hostage within limits, as opposed to, hey, we were real fair with you up front. Here's your, give your deposit back. You know, I would like to keep it fair, just, and equitable. You know, that's just my feeling. For $3,000, I think we have a lot more potential headaches if they want to throw it at us. What's your thoughts?
That's definitely a good point. It's only $3,000. 5%, 100% of the $11,000. That's been in the ground for quite a while now, and that's true. We will need easement from this property owner in the future.
We have it. We don't need.
No, we have easement only for the small section that's being conveyed to us. We will need an easement along all of.
I thought that we do what I just understood that we said earlier in this meeting, that we are getting that manhole that's in the 246 easement way, whatever, 20 feet into their property.
Yeah.
And that we have an easement going to the top of the property still.
No.
Is that not correct?
We do not, no. We only have an easement of what is being conveyed to us. The pipe, which is a relatively small section on San Dakota, that's the only thing that's being dedicated to us in the easement.
So we didn't really get much at all. We got a manhole in this deal. We're putting it in.
Well, a 10-inch pipe, a couple of manholes, and then a connection to our main line.
Manholes, or is it one?
Manhole number 3. Probably a manhole number 3. And also connection into the main line. That's the work in the right of way. So we are receiving that. But the bulk of the easement for this property in the future.
So we still need to buy an easement now from them.
In the future, yes.
They've played this thing very brilliantly.
Or we played ours incredibly
That's what I'm
poorly.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, that's one reason why we're in a search for a new GM.
Do we still have any leverage with this, $1,000 or whatever, of giving it back to them? Getting our easement at the same time, maybe right now, before we just hand them back that money, say, we're looking at doing this, is there, how about signing the papers for your easement? Maybe they get more money, whatever, maybe they could use it after all this construction. And this slow down with this, might be the perfect time to buy the easement. I mean, let's not be stupid twice.
I agree.
That's where I started this project. That's where I started. And until I saw the email between your former general manager and their engineer that said the $11,740 is for the work in the right of way.
That's all it's for.
And Mr. Battles, do you have an opinion on that?
On the deposit or whether we should go for the acquisition of the easement now?
Well, that's Director Redfern's point is maybe part of saying, well, we'll give you the whole deposit back, but with this caveat or, the look to the future here that we would want this.
No, I think it
Give
would
us any
be,
leverage. Oh, sorry.
I think if you're going to give the full deposit back, which you're not required to do under the contract, that you ought to make as big a deal of that as you can and make it clear doing this as a gesture of goodwill and that we're hoping to work cooperatively with them in the future on the easement acquisition, the easement that we think we're going to need. But sure, no, I think that would be a very appropriate way to communicate to them regarding the return of the whole deposit.
So would Director Beard, would you be interested in revising your motion to returning the full deposit, but will we need to add something, Rick, contingent upon or just instruct staff to at the same time get the best deal that he can with an eye to the future? I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I don't think it needs to be part of the motion. I think it can be a direction to staff to, again, play it up as best as staff can and indicate how much the board wants to work cooperatively and how the board is being very accommodating, notwithstanding what the agreement said, and notwithstanding that they don't have to give the whole deposit back, they are anyway. So we're hopeful that the owner will take that into consideration when we discuss acquisition in the future.
Should we send them a letter of intent to acquire an easement?
Well, Hamner Jewell is handling that process, so we need to coordinate that with them.
So, and they're not there yet. The easement company is not ready to do that yet. So I guess what we're looking for then, Rick, is an amended motion to pay the whole thing according to how it's been written up here by staff, indicating we're going to pay the whole thing, but then we're going to direct staff to work on negotiating the best possible deal for our district.
Yeah, so you'd need to have the maker of the motion accept that amendment or vote on the initial motion.
Okay, well, before I ask Director Beard if he would amend his motion, Director Redfern had a point.
What is holding this up on easement of getting a price, right? Whatever going price for the easement.
The first part of that was moving forward on the easements was contingent on first cleaning up the Golden Inn improvements. Because we now are operating a lift station there, and we don't have easements. None of those have been conveyed to us. Neither do we have any easements on the main lines in the Golden Inn. That'll be a new agenda. So that's why we're not moving forward with easements until we clear up the easements for an existing facility that we're actually already running. Right? Golden Inn. Again, something that
It seems like our ducks are so out of line.
they are. They are.
I feel bad. I really don't think that I did the best work that I could have done. All I can say is new board stuff, and I know that Director Beard wanted us to get more information before we signed off on our previous general manager leaving, And I didn't support you in that, Director Beard, and I regret that now. Yeah, there's nothing I can do about it now, I don't
Right.
think. But I just didn't feel like we had enough board consensus or staff consensus. I felt like it was going to put the district in the crosshairs. It wasn't one person's decision, it was a board decision, but knowing what I know now, because I didn't know anything for a fact, I just had a sense that there were a lot of things that didn't seem to be right, but I didn't have any facts.
But then, that's Monday morning quarterbacking yourself, at the time it was the right thing with the knowledge we had. We're here now, let's learn, let's move forward, let's not.
Yes.
Let's take care of it.
And Golden Inn will be taken care of. Rick and I are working on that, and we have to focus, and it'll be brought forward to the board. Easements and conveying of those facilities, which have been operating for quite some time.
Yes.
It just seems like we're missing a golden moment.
I think, again, the staff recommendation is to, the goodwill of the 100% of the deposit will go a long way. To a future.
Okay, I'm willing to amend it that we can give them 100% of the deposit back, but with staff working with them to move forward with the easement.
So before we second that,
Yes.
I got a question for John. So John, do I understand that the conveyance of the work that's been done, has that been inspected? Because I know we made a special provision in the legal agreement that we would buy off on it. And has that been done?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, our engineer and staff have inspected those facilities,
Great.
including cammering the lines, and I'm told they are sufficient to meet our needs.
Perfect. Thank you.
And was that an opportunity that we could have held it up a little bit to, like an opportunity to say, well, we should compromise on this a little bit because or is that blackmail?
I think this is the best recommendation.
Okay. Okay, so this is the best we can do, and we're going to accept, Director Beard has amended his motion. Instead of the 75%, he has amended the motion to return the deposit 100% to the owner of the property. So we would need a second.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Director Beard, a second from Director Mueller, Director Mueller did the second. They both did at the same time, and right? Yes. Okay.
Are we sure this is the right two? Because this lady isn't that scale to begin with. $3,000 might still be a nice little chip to have in our pocket.
In regards to the easements, all easements that we try to acquire will go through an appraisal process.
Right.
They appraise the facility.
Right. I understand.
The area that we're looking at is already a public utility. It's a 20-foot long PUE and road easement. So we'll just be acquiring a portion of that in the future.
Right.
I understand what Director Redfern is saying.
What I'm saying is we thought we had an agreement already to have the system put in, which we don't. And if I understood the reason, it was because the lady's crazy.
Well, no, that wasn't the reason. I'm saying that's what a staff member who no longer works here told me what happened. I said, what went wrong? He's like, and just was very dismissive and said the owner was uncooperative.
I'm
He used some.
sure that we're thinking about all our options here.
Well, I know the person that characterized the owner that way to me doesn't have credibility with me. So, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I would hate for us to give up what little leverage that we have, although if we need an easement, we will get an easement, right? Yeah, so I mean, she can't really, if we need to use that, but I understand what you're saying, because we as an agency made a mistake, but the agreement wasn't followed on all parts. We just didn't properly document some things, perhaps. So, right now, where we're at with this is Director Beard made a motion. It was seconded by Director Mueller. And is there any more comment before we move forward? Okay.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote with the board members present. Director Redfern. Aye. Director D'Ambra.
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Mueller.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Thank you.
No more ghosts come out of this.
We get to go with it.
I mean, golden, yeah.
Right, right.
I'll take a couple aspirin.
That's what I meant. We are able to get it. It's not that she can keep us from getting an easement, but we will be working with this person and we want to have a positive relationship, and we want to do better.
We will.
So now we move to the action item B, which is capacity charge model. So I will turn that over to
I'll kind of
John.
start things off here. We have Clayton Tuckfield and Associates here to discuss with your board a capacity charge model that he has created for our use for our future mainline extension, Horizon Drive or otherwise. And I'll let him go through his PowerPoint. I'll try not to take any of the luster away from him. Generally though, what you'll see here is a model. It does include Horizon Drive cost and Stadium Way combined. And that's an engineer estimate with that. It did more than double the cost when we went to Stadium, which was I think more than any of us were expecting. The model also has a couple of nuances and differences that from what your board has seen in the past. And the model will allow us to use it and manage it going forward to set the capacity rate. The capacity rates will not be set tonight because there's a number of things you still don't know about our variables within the rate. But the model does allow us to either use a loan or use our own cash reserves. We can put both numbers in and decide which is the most reasonable capacity charge for customers. It's currently set up on a 30-year loan. That can be changed to 20 years, which the board has discussed in the past. The rate that Clayton is using now is 2.5%. Actually, again, that should be changed if you do finally get a loan at 1% or 2%. The biggest assumptions that we will not know when we set the rate, there are some assumptions the board will eventually have to take its best guesstimate of. It could include more of a survey to the customers. But here are the key assumptions. It requires us to tell the financial model, which gives us the capacity rate, how many customers will pay cash, and how many will finance it through our finance plan that we have, the installment plan. It also requires us to tell the model how many connections will occur per year during the term of the loan, 20 or 30 years. Or if we expect them all to connect within the first 5 years, we put those numbers in.
How do you get there?
How many people
That's just
connect?
that's just gotta get, through apple pie in the sky.
It could be, it may very well be, otherwise we could formally survey them with more specifics to customers. Here's what we expect the capacity charge will cost. Here's what we expect it to be done. Show us your interest based on something. I don't know how it'll say, but right now in the model that Clayton will show you how he works it, he assumes that 4 people are going to connect per year for the first 5 years, and then 1 more connection to be completed. So that's 6 years and all 21 people on Horizon Drive connect.
I think we're dreaming.
I was gonna say, that's the very rosy.
So that's why I'm saying eventually, because what happens is the capacity charge goes up the longer you wait.
And also, will you explain how you double the volume and the price goes up?
Well, that was the engineer's estimate. When he gave us an estimate going to the Stadium Drive, it went from about $680,000 project to about 1.6.
I can address that if you guys can hear me.
Yes, okay, Mike is on now.
Yeah, so just so you guys know, the extension that goes out to Stadium added over twice as much length to the overall pipeline. That was one of the reasons. And the other reason is We put estimates in there for repaving of Refugio roadway from basically like right away to right away, or edge of lane width to edge of lane width, which basically is like a full repavement of the street, which is a county requirement. So that added, I think, well over $100,000 just in street repavement costs for that little section that goes between Horizon and Stadium. So more distance and a lot more paving restoration required for that.
Okay. Well, one last thing before I let take it, there's a PowerPoint I'll go through, but one other nuance within the model is that it does have the payment plan we could offer customers. It changes from what our current payment plan is. The payment plan that is used, as claim indication, our current installment payment plan acts like an assessment for each house, and it changes each house that connects because it's based on the prime rate plus 1%. The rate that is used in the model is the loan rate that we would get. If we get our loan rate at 2%, we would lend customers money at 2% for 20 years. So that's the only that could motivate more people to use or connect. So with that, I'm not going to.
Just food for thought. People on Horizon have been held hostage for a hell of a long time. They've been begging us. You've been here to do something. We worked diligently. We're trying to go as quickly and as efficiently as we can. And now we gave them some preliminary numbers. I don't want to go. I would just have them cut it off at Refugio and let the stadium feed out the back over on 246. I don't want to come back and tell the people on Horizon, hey, it's double what we told you, when it wasn't that way until we decided to put stadium in. I'm not going to support that. I just want everybody to digest that. I don't think it's right that we do that to them.
And I might have misspoken. The project cost doubled. The project cost
Because of stadium.
Yeah, but the capacity charge went up, but not that much, if I remember. But with that, I'll let Clayton.
Okay, so what you want to
do his thing.
Right, and
I've set you up.
And just one little clarifier here for me is we asked to get those numbers to see what would change, not that we voted, oh, well, let's do this because we assume that.
Right.
So we just.
I have one other thing. Okay. I don't know how the asphalt is going up for Tokyo, but the county at some point has to repay it. And if you knew that, that might be the time for us to do our work just ahead
Of them
paving.
I agree.
And saving $100,000 or some part of that.
Right, I'm working with the county because it's county environmental health that is pushing for everybody to get on sewer. And, you know, if they make it easier for us, then it can happen. So anyway, with all that, before we get into further discussion, tell me your name again. Clayton Tuckfield from Tuckfield and Associates is going to do a presentation now on our, okay. So I'm once again having trouble getting the PowerPoint up so the people attending via Zoom. So Mr. Tuckfield will explain things to us, and we have handouts here. And Mrs. Wooten or Gary, anybody who needs this, we will mail it to you, email it to you, we will get it to you. But in the meantime, you can follow along and take notes. Okay, Mr. Tuckfield.
Great, thank you for allowing me to make this presentation to the board. As John mentioned,
I hear him very well.
we're creating a capacity charge for the district recover.
Oh, hang on, a little trouble hearing you. No, you can roll, yeah, just come over. I will not cough on you.
Okay, so the task we had was to develop a capacity charge that would recover the district's cost for building the capacity charge line. So John presented us with two scenarios. One would be where the project cost was $685,000 with 21 customers connecting. And then the second scenario was a project cost of $1.62 million with 60 customers connecting. What we want to do is kind of bracket this and see where the capacity charges go based on the types of assumptions that go into creating these capacity charges. So on slide 2, we have our simple Horizon capacity charge calculation here. So in its simplest form, you just take the cost of the project and divide by the number of customers you're going to connect. So if we did that for the $685,000 project, that capacity charge would be $32,619. If the project was $1.62 million, 60 customers connecting, that would be $27,000. Now that's pretty simple. That assumes they all paid cash up front, you collect it at the same time, and you just turn that over to the engineer, and he built the thing for the same cost. Pretty,
Yeah, not realistic.
not gonna happen. It's pretty unrealistic. That's right. So that there's several things that could occur. What if the customer pays up front, but the district decides to finance the project? You have a different cash flow stream. And really, this is what this is all about: is cash coming in at certain times to pay for things. Okay, what if the customer decided to finance their capacity charge versus paying in cash? So you can see that these timing has time value of money essentially. Money comes in, money goes out. There's interest that can accrue or interest that needs to be paid based on that money that's either there or it's not there. So let me try to explain that a little better. I created the next slide called assumptions. So in developing the model, these assumptions assume, well, we want the customer to can pay cash and the option to finance their capacity charge. As John mentioned, we assume that there's 4 customers connecting per year. Now, that's important because we need the cash coming in to also help finance other capital improvement projects that's in the CIP for the financial plan. So that was kind of like a minimum amount to connect up. And that's based on the capital program. So if the program changes, we may not need 4. If we keep the way it was presented, then 4 is kind of like something we did have.
So that's just based on the loan repayment?
Well, for example, there's other capacity charges besides the Horizon line. There's sole bank capacity charge that the district collects, plus I think it's a collection capacity charge as well. So if you're building lines, let's just say sewer lines elsewhere besides the Horizon line, the new customer is going to pay those capacity charges as well. Otherwise, rates have to be higher. Okay. Also, John mentioned the financing terms that the district gets to finance their project versus what you're going to offer as financing for the customer that connects up. And I've also assumed that you're going to have a separate account to track all these revenues and expenses. So you got to set up an account, money comes in, money goes out, and then we either accrue interest or we pay interest based on what's in that account. And we do that because under AB 1600, you're supposed to keep track of, you set a chart, money you collect goes directly to pay for the cost of that. So that's why you need to have a separate account for that. Okay. I mentioned the last one. I assume that the capacity charge is going to inflate every year. That's kind of like an inducement to get people to connect up earlier because it costs them more later. We decided to do that. Now that inflation rate is something the district can set. I put it at a pretty low rate for the model purposes, but inflation could be 2 to 3%, something in that range. And so that would be the district's prerogative to set that
Incentive.
if I like, yes. Okay, so the next slide, in developing a range of values, what I did here is create a matrix that you can take a look at. So I have the top, the $685,000 project cost, and then I have the $1.62 million project cost. Underneath that, you can see the choices, either district pays cash or the district uses financing. And then on the very far left, those are the scenarios. So if the 21 customers connect up paying cash and the district paid cash for the project, the capacity charge would be $36,021. Now, just below that, if all the customers decided to use financing, but the district still paid cash for the project, that charge would increase to $47,336. Now, I think some of these are somewhat intuitive in the sense that if the district paid cash, that's a lot of money they spent out. So you've got a huge negative fund balance. So now you're essentially accruing interest that you need to collect from the customer to recover that. So you would expect the charge to be higher. So a lot of these depend on the assumption on interest rates and the financing and so forth to develop these charters.
I have a question for you on this. On the 47,336, that's finance
That's the
at
customers,
2%,
that would be the customers financing their capacity charge.
at the 2% to pay us back. So that's all inclusive of their amortization, if you will,
That's
right?
correct, all inclusive of their amortization.
Okay.
That's right. So you can see they got a payment stream, so the cash doesn't come in until over a 30-year period. But she spent $685,000 out right away. So there's a lot of time value money occurring right there. And if you look at these other scenarios, I don't want to go through each one of them, but you can see that it ranges between 36,000 to 45,000 or 48,000 for the other project. So this gives you an idea, essentially, what the range is when we're trying to set up these capacity charges. They're not really that close. It all depends a lot on the assumption. So let's take a look at this graphically. On this next page. What you can probably deduce from this is that if you look at the first two columns, the left two choices, those are both related to the $685,000 project cost. So far left, if the district pays cash, if the customers pay cash, that's that first column there. And it's lower than the second column, which is if the customers finance. And likewise, with the 685, if the district uses financing, but the customers pay cash, it's a higher value. Versus if they both finance, if the district finances and the customer finances, you get a lower capacity charge that's shown here in that fourth column. Now, the last four on the right side of the table relate to the capacity charge on the construction cost of $1.62 million. So it's a similar situation, except the far two columns show that it doesn't really matter whether the customers use financing or not, as long as the district finances the project. So the point of all this is that we want to kind of show you that the capacity charges are going to range somewhere between 36 to 45, maybe 48,000, depending on the assumption that you use. And that will be the choices that John mentioned the district will be making when we're going forward.
Right. When I looked at this, Clayton, I thought it was interesting for the 600, for just the Horizon Drive project, the dollars are the same if we and the customers pay cash or we and the customers finance.
And that's only true if you offer the same term that you receive the financing.
Right. But that wasn't intuitive to me.
Yeah.
And if we both pay cash and we both finance, the capacity charge is the same.
It's really timing of the money coming in and money going out.
Advantageous for us not to put a big, as you mentioned, a big chunk of change down and then over time get it back, because things will pop up, more ghosts will come out of the walls at that point.
Yeah.
So is it be prudent to finance some cash and then some financing on our part, so we don't jeopardize our reserves for a rainy day?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the board decision, but I'm always more in favor of financing the project because it spreads it out over time, and customers connect at different times. So you want to use the facilities over the life of the facility rather than all at once up front and then try to do it down. I would recommend financing.
Okay.
And Clayton also had a recommendation that him and I talked about, which was when we set the capacity charge, err on the side of a little higher charge than a lower charge. We will not be able to go back.
Yeah, that's right. You can't go back and ask them for more.
I always like to be pleasantly surprised and not disappointed also.
We're due.
So with that, we do have you have the spreadsheet available of the actual model.
If all goes well.
We had it there a minute ago. There you go. So
Will everyone see this one?
Can everybody in the audience see the Excel spreadsheet?
Yes.
Yay.
so that is that's a charge for us.
Can we turn the light down maybe?
You want to come over here, you
Yeah,
guys?
No, I can see it. It's just-
Is that a model for the 685 or larger?
That would be for, hard to see, and when you, can you move the box out of the way of the variables there? So
We're excited to have the box.
So picky.
Would it help if we hit the lights?
Just move it over. Oh, there you go.
there you go. Okay,
So that's,
okay, so if everyone can see this, on the right-hand side is a title called variables. And for the variables, we're talking about a project cost of $685,000, finance for 30 years at 2.5%. Then we have other rates affecting the cash flow, including interest on any accumulated funds at 0.25. That's kind of to reflect life, I think, where it's going because of interest rates been dropping like crazy here lately.
Excuse me for interrupting you. When you say the 2.5, so when we get a loan, that's a fixed rate for the term of the loan?
Yes.
It's not adjustable or anything?
No, if you go through SRF, it's going to be 2.5% 30 years.
Okay.
Then if the short-term borrowing costs, meaning that if you don't have the money, the account is negative, you need to get money to borrow like a line of credit, so you'd be paying at 5%. That's kind of reflective of prime rate plus 1%, something like that. Then the capacity charge inflation rate, that's kind of low at 0.25%, but that was to try to demonstrate the model. So then we have below that the San Ynez financing terms. So you're offering a customer who connects up 30-year financing at 2.5%, the same terms that you receive from the SRF. And okay, and the other variables on the right left-hand side, you'll see the number of equivalent residential units. And as John said, you're connecting 4 a year, 5 years, and then 1 that last year, the 6. The total of those is 21. So with that, the capacity charge would be $45,100.
but that is where a customer pays cash and we finance.
That's correct.
So that's we're not, they're all paying cash.
So you can also see the annual cash flow at the top, the second to right column. So the district is financing that. You see the payment stream and the money coming in. So you're positive the first 5 years because customers are paying cash. So your account is positive, you're earning interest income, and gradually cash flow goes negative because there's no more, essentially everybody's paid. There's no more cash coming in, you start to go negative. So your very far right column is the accumulated funds balance. So that's how much, if they're in the hypothetical bank account, how much money you have. Okay?
But as we move forward with this, and again, 2.5% is just a number that Clayton's using now. I think the SRF right now is about 1.5, 1.75. And who knows what it'll be when we get there. Right. But when we use the model eventually, to actually set the capacity charge, when your board at a public meeting, we can change, we will have to change those variables. Specifically, we'll have to make an assumption how many people are going to connect in what year, how many will partake in the finance plan, whatever rate it is, which will be low, or we'll pay cash.
Those are big assumptions.
Those are big assumptions, and those change those capacity charge numbers. But I guess we can't do it because it's a complex model.
Can we try?
Okay. Well, you have to
You
use
wanna-
the solver.
It works.
Okay, it's problematic. I know how to use it.
I can't see the very top. When she clicks on data, John, I need to see
Okay.
it.
Clayton and I have gone through these and we've changed the numbers. 2 connect the first year, none for 3 years, and 1 connects, and those numbers move around. The capacity charge moves around for the charge of that year. So I guess, one of the things we would consider is as I mentioned, is more of a survey to all the, in this case, Horizon Drive, with more specific numbers. We're going to get this thing built on this day, on this year. Here's what a capacity charge will be approximately. Tell us if you're interested, and when you think you would be interested, and if you think you would want to partake in our low low finance rate, or you want to just pay cash.
You know, that's a nice assumption, but the reality is you come to my door and I go, yeah, I'm really interested, it's fantastic. I'm not gonna do it until I'm absolutely positively cornered. And I think that's a fair assessment for most people aren't gonna sign on unless they're having a problem. I think we got 3 or 4 there who will jump on it, but then we got another 15, 16 over time that may or may not.
Right, if it goes to a drug situation again, those people's systems are probably gonna hold up.
Yeah.
You know, for another 10 years or more. And if we get a couple more wet years, there'll be more that fail. But that's a gamble.
That's problematic. You'd be looking at a $700,000 loan for 30 years.
What that means is that you don't have enough cash coming in because they didn't connect, but you're still making the payments. So that difference has to be made up through the current rate payment. Because the district has to get its own cash flow.
Well, yeah, that's a whole other bag of worms there, isn't it?
But you want the growth to pay for growth, you want customers to pay for the line, but in the sense that you're off somewhat, it's the current rates that are gonna make up the difference that you don't. That's why we're talking about, you wanna over collect versus under. You can always rebate your money back, you just can't ever collect it.
Well, the other thing is if we throw stadium in with this, I guess you probably need a good mathematical calculation. How much more could we put up more of the district's money in cash and still keep X amount of dollars in reserve if we have maybe more support on stadium? Ultimately, it's cheaper to do it at one time than it is down the road, but it's also got to be financially feasible for us and the consumer.
It goes from a $685,000 cost to $1.6 million.
The payment or the cost per household is less, right?
It is.
Yeah, 27.
But again, that's assuming how quickly everyone connects,
Right.
what year they connect.
Right.
That's
Keep in mind, this is unusual to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Most of the time, you'll just do an assessment, and that goes on the property, and collect the money every year regardless.
everyone connects.
Everyone connects. And you
Yeah, but I don't think that's legally, you can impose that here. I don't think that's a legal action.
Is it they don't meet the state water?
Well, but that's the state regional water quality control board comes out that, and they don't have any evidence to implement a demand like that. This goes back a long time ago.
Yeah,
The
if I
state
could,
water quality control board has the right to come in when the water is contaminated.
Okay, Mr. Battles would like to address that.
just a point on that, we could establish an assessment district, but there are 2 reasons why we're not looking at that as an option. The first is that with only 18 homes, the cost of setting up an assessment district, or is it 21, I'm not sure, just makes it cost prohibitive. It's an expensive process to set up an assessment district. It wouldn't make sense, but probably more importantly, the people in that area were promised that they wouldn't have to pay anything until they connected. And if you set up an assessment district, everybody would have to start paying even if they didn't connect. So I think that's the real driver here. And one of the challenges, that's to come up with a way to finance it, but not require people to pay until they actually connect.
Did you have something?
Yeah, we were looking at assessment district for 60 homes. That would be stadium way, right?
Okay, did you hear that, Rick? Director Redfern said, what if we're talking about assessment for 60 homes?
I don't know where the break-even point is on that, but I think the second issue I mentioned would still be the driver, and that is when that whole area was annexed, the residents were told you won't be required to pay anything until you decide to connect to the sewer. And if we set up an assessment district, everybody would start paying right away.
So that's not a possibility now then for the 400 homes that were annexed in. We can't do an assessment district because that would make more sense, right?
Well, I think the records that I looked at, that's not a legal requirement not to have an assessment district. That was a discussion, a public discussion, a promise.
It was a commitment that was made to the public,
Yeah, that's what you told the public.
but not legally binding on the district, probably.
Well, I was not there for that vote, but I can say that there were a lot of parts of that so kind of like we've been picking and choosing what part we're gonna honor there, huh?
Yeah, it'll, no matter what we do here, it'll be tricky connecting anyone unless, of the 21 homes on the horizon, right? 11 or 12 of them give us a really good feeling they're gonna do this in a year or two, right?
But you have 60 homes, you're much more likely to get your 4 homes a year than with 21.
But if we have 60 homes, we need more than 4.
No, you can still do
Still 4, and then we need to make your
I
cash.
just assume that they
Okay.
connect sometime within a 15-year period. So that's one of my constraints right there. All customers connect by 2035.
Can he speak up?
Mr. Tuckfield, was that Rick or?
David.
They asked whether or not, under the scenario where the cost is $1.62 million, do the customers still connect at 4 per year? And that was one of my assumptions. Yeah, that's correct. It would just be 4 customers every year, and then for 15 years it's 60. So, right?
4 years. Yeah, so that's
So 4 year over 15 years.
With stadium way, I'd recommend more of the outreach, a little more of a discussion with them. We have a little feeling for Horizon Drive,
Right.
But
we haven't communicated
On the other side of
anything
the road.
stated.
yeah,
Or with the newly annexed people from 2 years ago. I mean, I'm not trying to just make this bigger, but if we had 400 houses and we're planning for,
I don't think we're ready for that.
okay,
We're not ready for that yet.
okay.
so it's a good model. It's I think a pretty clean way to set capacity charges going forward. But we need to decide how big of a project and get a better feeling on who connects and when, and if they pay cash or desire the loan.
I think we need to bring 1 stadium in, and then 2, bring back in Horizon and show them, hey, if you go with this larger project, it's going to save you money. That's got to be appealing to them.
They'll probably want to know how much time, like what is the trade-off time for money kind of thing.
Whatever the excavator is going to be in front of their home, it's going to be the same amount of time whether it goes up the street or not. It's going to dig the hole is basically the same amount of time.
Right, but to get started, because the Horizon people have had to wait. So would this be an appropriate time to open it up for some of the folks that are in the area? I see that Mrs. Wooten is online. Is Gary still there? Is there anybody listening to this or watching the presentation that would like to make a comment?
I think you have to unmute them.
They can all unmute themselves.
Okay, because I couldn't unmute myself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well,
Should I just unmute?
yeah.
and-
Are we done with the spreadsheet? Stop sharing.
Okay, so everybody is unmuted now.
Yes.
Is there anyone from Horizon or listening that would like to ask a question or have a comment? I am not hearing from anyone. Mrs. Wooten, Gary,
This is Ann Wooten, 3146 Horizon. I came in a little late, so I didn't hear the beginning with the easement, but I think I got a little bit caught up on that. As far as the other with the spreadsheet that you were showing, I could only see the top half of it. I couldn't see the bottom half. And it's very small print, so I'm trying to follow, but I'm assuming we can pick that up at the district office.
yes, or maybe more likely that Wendy will send it to you because our office has been closed even when Wendy's working. She usually has the door locked until we get back to the new normal.
Perfect, perfect. So the, as I understand it, you're talking about Horizon, which is 685,000 with the potential for 21 hookups, and that's 32,000, 33,000 per connection. I don't know if the math is right there. Or you're talking 60 connections, which is, I guess, stadium. I'm not sure where that 60 is.
Yes. And I'm going to have Mr. Tuckfield and our GM answer your questions, but continue.
Okay. And all of that is based on, and the amount based on whether you pay cash up front, you get a loan, you do a combination of the two, and interest at 2.5%. Is that correct?
That's all the assumptions we're currently using. That's correct.
Okay. And I'm having a little trouble hearing those who are not, I'm not sure how you're connected. So, the audio is a little bit off. So it's help.
Yep. All good.
Right. Hold on.
Still there. Echo.
Mrs. Mute.
There we go. Okay. Yes. Yes, there's just certain connections that I'm having trouble, but that's just because probably of what instrument you're using, your iPhone, your laptop, or whatever. But so it's helpful when you repeat it.
Okay, well, I've got a little bit of an echo here. I would like you to be able to talk to John and Mr. Tuckfield. If I talk fast, it would be quicker.
Zoom.
Try that.
Are you still there, Ann? She is muted.
She's muted now. I just unmuted her.
Okay. Are you still there, Ann?
I am now. I could not, when you as the host mute, I cannot unmute myself. So the host carries all the weight.
In more ways than one, let me
You're
tell you.
it. You're the top one. That's right. So yes.
Okay, well, we have Mr. Tuckfield and our general manager are both going to answer your questions. So you wanted some clarification on the numbers presented.
Yeah, and I can. This is John Dornelis. I'm the interim GM. The capacity charges you're seeing now are just an example of what the financial model does. There are no rates that are specific tonight. And they have a lot of assumptions, specifically our loan terms, the length of the loan, the interest rate, which we do not have. It is, as you said, using 2.5% or 30 years. The CSD may decide on a 20-year loan at 1.5%. That will change the capacity charges. The other big assumptions are we have to assume who's going to pay cash for this project, what customers are going to pay cash to connect, and which ones will want to finance through the CSD to connect. And the other big assumption is how many connections per year. So the numbers you see are just for Horizon Drive, and they assume 4 connections a year for 5 years, and then 1 connection to finish the project. So it's done in 5 years.
Oh, it's done. You're assuming all 21 in 5 years? Is that what you said?
That is currently what the spreadsheet has. We have not set that assumption yet. For tonight's presentation, because we are not setting a capacity charge tonight, we had the consultant and we set some numbers to see what they look like. Before the CSD sets a capacity charge in the future, many months in the future, we will try to get more information from customers on Horizon Drive, or if we go across the street to Stadium, to get a feeling for who's going to connect and when. But right now, you're seeing it as 4 a year for 5 years, and then 1.
Okay, I got that. Thank you.
Did you have any other questions?
No.
Okay, Anne, this is Wendy Berry. I sent you a private message asking for your address.
I just saw that. Yes.
Okay, if that's how you want the information, then I can send that to you if you send me your email to make sure I have it.
Okay, is there anyone else from Horizon that has a question or a comment? I don't think Gary is still on, right? No? Okay, so right now, what's next, John?
I think I'll read in the board comments or questions, otherwise we would just, review and discuss this and accept the financial model, because that's what we asked Clayton Duckville to do, and he produced that. And then, as I said, as I keep saying, it's a model. It's not, we're not setting anything tonight. I think our next step is to try to get a better idea of how big of a project, again, the stadium and just Horizon. And once we decide that, then some level of a survey or a public workshop to really get a better idea of when folks can connect. And that's always the danger of giving everyone fees and charges, because that's all they're looking at. We don't know what they are yet, but they're somewhere between $30,000 and $50,000 or somewhere there. It's a big span, I know. That span will get narrower and narrower once we gather more information.
So the direction that staff is looking for is how we want to proceed there on the outreach and a timeline.
And if there is, the interest to try to move this to the other side of the street,
I would like to throw this in. I think we should communicate to Stadium, get them at the next meeting, make a presentation, a rough presentation of our goals and objectives with Horizon, tying them in if they like. Building a little relationship with them. And that'll bring us closer together on, hey, there's a lot of people interested or not. But I think that's what we need to know is what they're thinking.
Is there any studies been done to see Stadium Way going around the high school?
That's what I thought.
Out to the highway,
Yeah.
any cheaper by chance than coming across your food field?
You can bring it out by
Right, or
across the street from El Rancho, south of, west of the high school. I see plans that they run it out there with one easement, I think, to get you to 246.
Can we get them, or is it possible to get a engineer plan to do that, or to see that?
Mike,
saving money?
I'm sorry, Mike is on the line right now. We can ask him. Are you still there, Mike?
I just unmuted.
Oh.
Yep, I'm here still, yes.
Oh, hi.
Repeat
Hang
that.
on, Mike is on now. So Mike, your question was, Director Redfern and Director D'Ambra, both are curious if there is an alternate way to link to 246. Was that the question? For Stadium, if we want a Stadium, could we come out on going west of the high school?
No, well, yes and no. There is a route, but it would zigzag through 3 or 4 different properties, and you have to get easements from all 4 of those properties, and it's kind of an odd alignment, but it is like just a little bit west of Stadium Place. I think that's the cul-de-sac there. If you could zigzag your way through those properties, yeah, technically you can go that way. We looked at an alternate option going through the high school, but turns out the sewer and Highway 246 was not deep enough to make those connections.
Mike, what did you say about at the end of the cul-de-sac there? That's not feasible?
No, because there's no connection down to Highway 246. And like I said, you'd have to go through private properties to make that happen. And it wouldn't be a straight shot. You'd have to kind of cut over across a property and then down and then across another property and then down. And then eventually you'd make your way down to Highway 246.
So what you're saying, Mike, is the most affordable way to install the system would be through Horizon. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
And we don't need a study to show that because it's so obvious.
We looked at that stuff when we prepared the sewer area study. And then alternatively, I think I don't know if I have any documented studies for the Stadium Place option. I think we put together some exhibits a few years back to look at that option, but we didn't actually physically prepare a memo or a document that stated that.
I would just need to find out that we got the call again because we didn't have the right information. It would be nice if you had some paperwork from previous that we could at least look at.
Yeah, did you hear that, Mike? Director Redfern is just concerned he would like to have some kind of documentation showing that that's not an option. Oh, sorry, I muted you again. I don't know how that happened. Sorry. Okay, oh, here we go. There we go, okay. Now, sorry.
The question was, do we have that, or do we want to prepare that?
Director Redfern is concerned that we don't have any documentation stating that what looks like something that would work wouldn't work. There's nothing in a pre-existing study or would be more expensive.
That is correct. We don't have that prepared or put together. We can, if you want to have that documented, that's not a problem. I do have the information. I could present it in like a formal memo or something that kind of discounts that as a legitimate option for conveying sewers.
Yeah, that would be good. And also this could be part of the discussion when we do our outreach with the people on Stadium. But yeah, that would be nice just to even have a memo. Oh, Director Beard, let me unmute Director Beard, I don't know. Okay, there you go.
I have a question on when we were talking about whether financing or not. If we finance it, and I'm not sure, if we finance the project and the person sells the home, would the loan have to be paid off by then, at close of the property?
And who would?
If the CSD, if someone enters into our installment payment plan?
Yeah, if we did an installment payment plan, if the property's sold 2 years later, would that convey to the new owners, or would it have to be paid off? That would make a difference in our.
I believe that's a lien
cash
that
flow.
stays with the property.
In '93, when they annexed some properties for sewers, they had a stipulation that if you sold the property, it was due and payable at close of escrow. That wasn't encumbered by the new owners, I recall. And I haven't heard anything about that. Somebody had told me that they couldn't enforce that. Maybe Mr. Battles could chime in on that.
I'm trying to unmute him.
Yeah.
You'd have to unmute him.
I believe our installment payment plan is a lien on the property. It stays with the property. It's like an assessment.
Yeah.
Okay.
You need to just unmute my iPhone, not the other way.
No, it's all paid out. It's like a school assessment, right? That's one of the.
We're having a little bit of a problem. We would like to hear from Mr. Battles on this, but he's muted. I'm trying to unmute without getting a lot of feedback.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, now, yes.
So I think that you could provide for the loan to be paid in full if the property is sold. That could be a condition to any installment payment plan that you entered into with the property owner. I don't recall off the top of my head what our policy provides for, but our policy could be customized and as it is applied to these properties, because it's a little bit different from the typical situation that the policy was intended to address. So that is a provision you could include in the deferred payment arrangement that you approve.
So we could add it in. It's not there now. We could add something like that.
That would expedite our return on investment.
So, yeah.
Right.
So,
That is a good point, because just the demographics of that neighborhood, they're there seems to be a lot of original homeowners and then a lot of new people coming in both.
So our installment payment plan will eventually have to be reformatted with this new interest rate and term and potentially this clause.
And we can find out the average attrition factor of the area, what often they live there, like you had said. And that would allow us actually to put more funding up front.
If that's heard, that's correct.
Yeah.
But like I said, you're not gonna go back and change the staff charges. You've got that money in the bank.
Yeah.
To be able to rebate it up
Go visit the casino.
front.
And if someone else would like to comment here, you can unmute yourself. It seems like that's what's working. If Mike or Frank, anybody has any comment? Director Beard? Can you unmute yourself?
Thank you.
Oh, okay. And how about you, Frank?
I can't hear anybody now.
Yeah, so everyone is currently muted, except I still have a dialog box open I could use to unmute myself. But I can't hear you, Karen, or anyone else. Everyone's muted.
Okay, now I'm unmuted.
Okay, how about now? Oh, Mike hears me. So, and David is unmuted. Do any of our directors have any, you're unmuted? So at this point, we're going to move forward and accept the report.
Stephen file the report, and then we will we'll put together a letter to state in for a future meeting. Whether it's May or June, I want to make the letter right. So we'll have a capacity charge estimate in there, but it'll be wide. Whatever the model says, it won't be tight. It'll be wide, just to see how many folks are tired of being on septic. How many want to connect to a sewer system? That's what you're gonna.
Okay, and so do we need to formally accept the report with a motion or just with consensus? Okay, do I have a motion to receive and file the report from Tuckfield and Associates?
I'll make the motion to receive and file the report.
Okay, so we had the motion made by Director D'Ambra and a second by Director Redfern.
Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. We'll start with the board members that are present in the boardroom. Director Jones.
Aye.
Director D'Ambra.
Aye.
Director Redfern. Director Beard. Director
Aye.
Beard. Director Muller.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to item 6C, and that's a LAPCO election. And Mr. Battles may have to help me here. Since I am a candidate in both of these, do I need to leave the room, Rick?
He's muted.
He's muted probably.
Oh, he can't unmute himself. When I unmute, it gets
should be
very
able to.
noisy. Rick, are you there?
Yeah.
So now,
Okay, that should work. Yes, you need to recuse yourself because you have a financial interest in the outcome.
Okay,
bye. Thank you.
thank you, goodbye.
Okay.
Do I need to make a speech?
Well, we have two actions tonight. First is to designate a director. Rather, the current LAFCO rules specify that the board officer, the board president, is the voting member of the agency. Since our board president is on both ballots, we thought it would be appropriate to, for our board president to designate another director to actually do the voting on the ballot.
Then I would think that that should be Director Moore.
It could be
I mean, he's a
whatever,
vice president.
it doesn't, yeah, whatever your board desires.
Fine. You've got straws, whatever.
I
It makes sense.
I like that sound, Director Muller.
Yeah, I think the fact that he's vice president seems to be simple. But Mr. Geiger did make a little election speech.
So,
But do I need to tell you, no, because you guys nominated me, so I hope that is enough of a sale. Not necessarily,
yeah, whatever, sure.
Okay, I would just like to say, to the people that are going to be voting, I guess it's just one person, and you guys can have input, that during the sphere of influence increase attempt for Los Olivos and for the annexation of West Sandy Inez, I was not serving on the board at that time, but I was a leader in the community against both of those things. And my competition, Mr. Geyer, was not, and he was one of the people that we were trying to change his vote to vote in favor of us. And without
If
that,
I could, Karen, could I interrupt?
right.
Wait, hang on. Go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, when a requirement of the recusal is that you leave the room and don't participate in the discussion.
Oh, I'm not going to participate in the discussion. I was taking my, Mr. Geyer came and gave us a speech on why we should vote for him at the last meeting. So I thought I should get, as a candidate, a little speech on why they should vote for me, but now I'm going to leave while they talk about it.
Okay.
Okay. Just thought that was an important consideration.
So as I said, there are just two actions, nominating a board member to vote. And there's a motion for Frank Muller to be our voting representative. So we can work on that first.
Okay, let's work on that.
Are you motioning?
I'll make the
Motion for Frank.
Frank to be our, there you go.
Okay, so we have a motion by Director Giambra and a second by Director Redfern to nominate Director Muller as the voting representative. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern.
Aye.
Director Giambra.
Aye.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Muller.
Aye.
The motion passes. Director Muller is the voting representative.
Wow.
And then the second item is, of course, the vote for both the regular LAFCO seat and the alternate seat. There are two members on each ballot, which your board has those in the packet. So I guess we're just looking at one of the nominations that we will officially vote for each seat. For the regular seats, it's Greg Geyer and Karen Jones, and for the alternate seat, Cindy Allen and Karen Jones.
Cindy Allen.
Cindy Allen of the San Ynez River Water Conservation District. She's a staff person at Veteran Village. So those are our two nominees. Four nominees.
I'll make a motion that we vote, that I would vote for Karen Jones.
For both the regular and alternate, or just
Regular and all.
There you
I'm
go.
gonna give her full.
Clean sweep.
I'll second.
Second.
Okay. So we have a motion by Director Giambra and a second by Director Beard to nominate Director Jones for the regular seat and the alternate seat for LAFCO. We'll do a roll call vote.
I didn't second it. I'm not sure who did.
Oh, that was me. It's Frank.
Oh, that was Frank, sorry. Okay, so we have a motion by Giambra and a second by Director Muller to nominate Karen Jones for both positions on LAFCO. We'll do a roll call vote. Director Redfern.
Aye.
Director Giambra.
Aye.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Director Muller.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right. So we can continue on with the manager's report.
Director Mueller will be voting with the ballot that we have, and you were nominated by your board.
Oh, very
For
good.
both seats.
Thank you. Yay. Like to hedge those bets. Okay. That was just a comment. I wasn't trying to get involved in the discussion. Okay, now we're going to move to reports. Item 7. First, we're going to hear from the manager.
Manager's report. So on March 22nd, the president approved a major declaration because of the COVID epidemic throughout the country. And this authorized FEMA for public assistance to agencies. We did submit a request for public assistance from the CSD here, just to remain eligible for potential funding in the future. At this point, we have not expended money for protective equipment or had some other unusual expense because of COVID, but we have had expenses. We had to purchase Zoom, which we may not have done. And Wendy's been training on that thing like crazy. It's definitely tricky. I have not been doing it.
Apparently need more training.
So we might have to buy a laptop to get this to work right. I don't know. But just to that request for public assistance needed to be submitted by April 17th, just to be in the running. And so we did. And that was from the California OES, Office of Emergency Services. So we did submit that just to be in there. The second item is under general manager recruitment. That does close on March 27th. Today we've only had a few resumes, but we do have 2 full application submittals, including cover letters, applications, and the questionnaire filled out. So there's no advantage not to turn it in early. We could have a big run, and applications could come in next week sometime. At this point, we do have 2. If we end up with very few qualified candidates, then we could bring those few qualified candidates, after the committee looks at them, directly to the board. The current timeline had a committee interview and then a board interview. If there's only a handful of qualified candidates, 3 or 4, then I would propose that we bring those directly to the board on May 20th for an interview. But again, it depends on how we end up the next week. So currently we have 2, which better than none.
You think you're doing a good job, right?
Well, we are rolling here. We got a good timeline, and we'll see how next week goes. But we hope to have it could come to the board in May rather than it would be a closed session interview.
There's also the possibility we could extend it because not everybody's going back to work.
No, that's right.
There should be a lot of good volume of qualified people because of all this pandemic thing. It might be to play that to our advantage if we don't like what we see.
We could. We'll have to see what we get. It is a difficult time to recruit, but we've had some applications that we have a couple that we'll hope to get a few more. We did have a conference call yesterday with Buellton, with their public works director and their new contract operator, the chief plant operator, which is FRM. And we're passing our information out to them, whatever information we get, equipment we have. And we expect that Friday will be our last day, officially as the plant operator over at Buellton. Finally, I did start the state revolving fund loan program, which is it's a large process to go through, multi-phase program, general information, technical, environmental, financial security. At least we have started that, and we'll continue to gather information and move that along, depending on whatever happens here. Whether we end up going with that loan or another loan, we'll be looking at another USDA loan through the Rural Development Authority.
You said that's about a year to get that done?
That's worst case scenario. Yeah, maybe less. But it didn't start well when I had when their program froze up and didn't let me go much past the general information tab.
I had a question. We went ahead and applied for the money for if we're adversely affected by the pandemic. And would that cover any expenses with our contract with the tribe?
The tribe has indicated they intend to pay the full cost during this time, even though the casinos and hotels closed.
Okay,
That's what they said.
okay.
There's eligibility for the funding. It's fairly wide. We'd just like to see how it finally resolves out. Whether it's simply protective gear or issues like that, or if it's other costs you've incurred during this time.
Are we going ahead and ordering extra protective gear for the people or for employees here, or not right?
We have not, except for the existing material. Existing equipment.
Because I would think that Fluent would be a wonderful way to get COVID, 19.
Yeah, that's a good question. We've done some research on it. Greg and I have, and everything we're seeing is that it's not living in effluent or even liquid water. We do have masks and things like that.
Right. But having experienced the hydrovac before and the mist that pours out of manholes when you're using the high pressure and stuff, I would really want to be sure that that was safe.
Well, we'll look at that some more, and we'll continue to provide some level of a higher level of breathing apparatus or
That's gear all the way around.
Yeah.
You use disposable,
And there's so much we don't know because depending on what you're reading and what the source is, things are unfolding. And I have seen a couple of news articles that said that it has been on Affluent. Yeah, I've seen two different articles. It has been seen on, yeah. That was my comment. There were people talking about it in a chat room on Twitter. And anyway, there are stories out there, but there's just so much information we don't know, and that might be right or might be wrong. But of course, we're going to err on the side of safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, anything else, John? Okay, thank you. Mr. Battles, legal counsel's report.
You should be unmuted.
Oh, there he is. What?
Can you unmute the other?
Oh, I see. There's two Rick Battles boxes. Okay, there. You explained that. Now it's starting to be clear. Okay, and unmute up here.
Okay, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Just quickly, I was going to report on Assembly Bill 2093 by Assembly Member Gloria. This was the bill that you may have heard about that was going to require all public agencies to retain all of their email communications for a period of 2 years. And there's a lot of concern that that might be an administrative burden just because there are so many emails that public agencies send and receive. That bill has been put on hold. The reason being that public agencies have enough to deal with right now with the COVID-19 crisis. And so this is not an appropriate time to pursue the legislation. Looks like it may not go away altogether, but it's not going to go forward this year. So that's one less thing districts have to worry about.
Okay. That it?
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Now we will go to the Secretary Treasurer's report. Wendy?
All right, so all I have is due to the COVID-19, the county of Santa Barbara has volunteered to not charge people late payments for their property tax bills. And all our sewer fees get placed on the property tax bills. So we should get our last installment of property tax at the end of this month. And it will be interesting to see how much we do or don't get due to the fact that people don't have to pay their property tax bill without being penalized. So depending on how much we get, we might need to relook at the budget. We only have 2 months left, but yeah, we depend on that money to fund the year. So It'll be interesting to see what we have.
Okay.
Does everybody pay their taxes?
What?
I said, everybody pay their taxes.
Yes.
A lot of people, it's just, baking the cake on the mortgage payment, but yeah, we really don't know how things are playing out. So it's good to know. Thank you, Wendy. And then directors' comments. Do any of the directors have any comments that or an announcement related to district business? I'm skipping committee reports because we haven't done anything with the committee.
That's fine.
Okay, and so director's comments. Director Beard, did you have anything?
No.
And how about you, Director Mueller? And the directors present, do either of you have any comments?
No, I don't.
I'm excited. I really appreciate the meeting being run so well. Once again, just throwing a lot of praise. I like the way things are presented. I like the staff reports. And I just appreciate everything you're doing because I think we're going to come out of this a lot better. But I'll tell you, this has been a crazy 2.5 years for me. And we're learning as a board. I keep saying that we're a new board. There are some things I wish I would have done differently, but all I can do right now is learn and just be do it. We know what we want when we're hiring a general manager now because we've seen John's style of management and what kinds of things are important to this district to protect and how to proceed. So I think, once again, thank you very much, John, but I think we're going to do a really good job hiring your replacement because now we know some things that I didn't know what I didn't know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been good. It continues to be living the dream.
I just can't.
Think about you for a haircut, everybody.
Well, I want to know where you can get the haircut because I only do eyebrows. Like that's my only vanity, but it's terrible. My eyebrows are a mess. And, I'm thinking about shaving them off or something, but with Supercuts clothes, we're going to come out of this very ugly. Okay, well, I guess the eyebrow thing is probably the end of it here. We'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting of the Santa Ynez Community Service District, April 15th, 2020 at 7:27. That is wonderful. We can still make it to the half off at El Rancho Deli.
And I'll leave you with a thought for today.
Okay, what is your thought for today?
The only sane people in the world are the ones you haven't talked to yet.
I'm gonna have to think about that one.